Now the moon shines tonight on pretty red wing. The breeze is sighing, the night bird's crying.
Good morning from the banks of McHenry Creek. Actually, we're a little up the hill from there, and some of y'all that don't know me, grew up and have lived up and down McHenry Creek my entire life, so that's where the name comes from. And hadn't put out a video in just a little while. Been kind of busy. We had snowstorms and all that sort of junk. But anyway, got something this morning. Bible detractors, Bible haters. We're seeing more and more, even in the political realm, of anti-God sentiment. It's just obvious out there. We had a political leader, so-called leader, just last week claim that God's will has nothing to do with Congress. And he's standing right under the words on the wall that says, "In God we trust." So he's just a heathen, godless heathen. And that's what we're running into. And more people are trying to find ways to discredit the Bible. And sure enough, a couple of times in the last couple of weeks, I've ran into people mocking the Bible over the word unicorn. It is mentioned in the Bible, so I want to talk about that for a few minutes. Unicorn. Now, Webster's original dictionary, almost 200 years ago, mentions unicorn. It says an animal with one horn, the monochorus, and this name is often applied to rhinoceros. And then also in Webster's dictionary, 200 years ago almost, rhinoceros. It says a genus of quadrupeds of two species. I'm trying to read there. One is the unicorn, a single horn growing straight out of the kind of the top of the nose or something. And then there's this other species with two horns, the bicornus, I think it's called. Natives of Asia, Africa, y'all are familiar with that. So if you look up unicorn in the original dictionary, Webster's dictionary, it says rhinoceros. If you look up rhinoceros, it says unicorn. Unicorn. Even I know that means one, like one horn. So in 1828, sure enough, you look up rhinoceros in the dictionary, and it describes what we read a minute ago. Unicorn. And it also mentions it's about 12 feet long, tells a little bit about it. But then it mentions there's another species with two horns, the bicornus. So you got unicornus, bicornus. So according to Webster, back in the early 1800s, 1828 or something, it was understood that there were two species of rhinoceros, unicorn, bicornus. And the scientific name of that Asian one-horned rhinoceros is officially Rhinoceros unicornus. Okay, I got no problem with that. We got pictures, we got video, we got live animals. We know what they are. So the appearance of the unicorn isn't really described very well in the Bible. It does provide some clues. Let's take a look at a couple of those. You can just go look up the scripture. Numbers 23:22, Numbers 24:8. The Bible mentions the strength of a unicorn. Deuteronomy 33:17. Psalms 22:21. You can go back and pull these up. Psalms 92:10. They speak of the unicorn's horn. Now, in Psalms 29:6, the unicorn's likened to a young calf skipping. Isaiah 34, I think it's verse 7, I forgot the number. It mentions unicorns in the same context as bulls or bullocks. Now, one of these original names, it's the Hebrew word R-E'-E-M, reem, refers to a rhinoceros or a auroch, a horned animal. And the image is always kind of the same, an untamable, ferocious, powerful animal. So what we do know is the Bible's not really referring to some mythological unicorn, the horse, the rainbow horse, with one horn that kind of dances around in fairy tales. That's not what it's talking about. Now, it's highly unlikely that the King James translators believed in the fairy tale unicorn. they simply used a Latin term that described a beast with a horn. Now, keep this in mind. This biblical term for unicorn, it's almost totally, exclusively in the King James translation that uses the term unicorn on all these references. There's only a couple of other translations. The 1599 Geneva, which is right there along 1611, they mentioned the word unicorn a couple of times. So in reference, here's some scripture that you'll recognize, some translations or Amplified, the Complete Jewish Bible, English Standard Version, Holman, NASB, Orthodox, Jewish, Revised Standard Version, Wycliffe. Well, Wycliffe uses both, depending on which verse you're looking at. But these other translations or scriptures that we just talked about, they don't say unicorn at all. Only the King James Version and a couple other references. That's it. That's where unicorn. And they're just trying to find a word. Remember Job? He had a encounter with this animal on God's list of an effective illustration to Job. God pointed out to Job, this is Job 39, that the unicorn, whose strength is great, who's useless, he's useless for agricultural work, doesn't serve man or plow the valley. So this visual gave Job a glimpse of God's greatness. So if God was trying to show his greatness and using an imaginary rainbow horse, that would have defeated his purpose completely. And again, it's only in that one translation. Now, around 250 BC, way back before Jesus, some Greek scholars took on the task, and y'all remember this, translating the original Hebrew Bible into Greek. So it'd be more readily available to more people that could read it. Not everybody could speak Hebrew, read Hebrew. When these scholars came across the Hebrew word rem, R-E'-E-M, they didn't know what it meant. And it apparently refers to wild ox with one horn, maybe even rhinoceros with one horn. So they did what any of the quality scholars would do. They translated to the closest word they knew. And they used the word monochorus, meaning one horn, and to describe this Bible unicorn. Later, you'll recognize this guy, St. Jerome. He translated the Bible from that Greek to Latin, and he encountered the word monochorus. He did the same thing. There was no Latin word for that, so he used a Latin word unicornus, which meant one horn. That's all. In 1611, here's the KJV guys. They translated the Bible into English. We know that. There's no English word equivalent then for unicornus, so they just made up a new word, unicorn. That's it. That's where this came from. So clearly the word rhinoceros didn't refer to unicorn, the rainbow creature, but more of a one-horned rhino, wild ox, it even says in some of the translations. They were just trying to come up with words to describe this animal. So from the context of the word unicorn, we can envision that this unicorn was an animal of great strength, similar to bulls and bullocks, notable horn, and then we can also conclude that it's not some horse in the fields or in the pretty forests. So the answer to the question, are there unicorns in the Bible? Sure. It says it in some of those translations, one of them especially. But nobody knows exactly what the biblical unicorn. There's so many possibilities. The wild ox, you see that a lot. Rhinoceros, yeah. So remember, the newer translations, which were translated from the earlier, older manuscripts, they didn't use that word at all. It was just a made-up word because they didn't have a word in English to translate it. So let me conclude with my simple take on this entire discussion. From the beginning of time, God's time, Satan has been doing his job, distract us, people, God's creation, away from God and Jesus. That's what he does. Tries to distract us away from God and Jesus. And you even heard the term, we'll accept good instead of great. That's Satan. He'll use anything that presents itself. As men, people do things, Satan will take advantage of it. When those King James translators used the term unicorn, and Satan was all over that, he took advantage of our imagination. And now we have a fairy tale mythical horse with a horn. So the Bible naysayers can use that against us. They'll say, see, the Bible's a fairy tale book. Those Christians believe in unicorns. Well, we don't. But we get confused, easily confused, and Satan takes advantage of that. So unicorn mentioned in the Bible, a couple of translations. But there's animals that easily describe what the Bible was talking about. And yeah, it's not the rainbow horse. Anyway, in case you were not sure, go and look up those scriptures I gave you and do your research on your own. But you're not going to find the leprechaun riding a unicorn in the Bible. It's just not there. So this is Terry from McHenry Creek Bible Stuff, and I've got a dandy I'm working on it when I'll have it ready, but that's Eve, somebody's artwork, and that's Lilith. I'll see you in a week or two. Thanks.